Hey y'all, welcome to my kitchen here in Houston. My name is Jamie and I'm the chef behind Pure Vegan. Today we're starting a series of videos where we're going to focus on one ingredient and bring you a really delicious recipe and some tips and tricks on how to execute that ingredient to its best quality. So today we're working with tempeh. Tempeh is one of my favorite products to work with. Can you see it? So tempeh is a soy product and it's the least processed of all soy products other than soybeans that you could buy in the grocery store. So what is tempeh? It's really similar to tofu, but it still has all the fiber in it. Tofu can be thought of almost as a bean cheese, if you will, whereas tempeh is the whole beans packed and fermented into a block. So it's really similar to tofu, except for tofu takes all of the fiber out, meaning it takes all of the bean skins and then the meat of the bean, and that's discarded, and you're just left with the liquid that is then formed into a block. Tempeh uses really healthy bacteria that are great for your stomach to ferment the beans into a block, and sometimes you can even find them packed with things like flaxseed and buckwheat, sesame seeds, a bunch of other healthy ingredients. Today, ours is just regular tempeh made with soybeans, no flax or anything in this one. And with this, we're gonna make a really yummy sloppy Joe. So let's go ahead and take a look at all of our ingredients that we need, and we'll get started cooking in just a second. So for our mise en place, or our ingredients that we'll be needing, mise en place is a French culinary term that roughly translates to everything in its place. Our spices that we have here are turmeric, red chili flakes, smoked paprika, cumin, and coriander. We have 3 chipotle peppers in the chipotle sauce. We have a mirepoix that's just missing the onion, so we have celery and carrots. I'm going to be using celery salt instead of regular salt today. And then to sweeten it up a little bit, we're going to be using agave nectar. I'll have the exact measurements for all of this posted in the description below. Also, I'll have the recipe linked on my website at curevegan.com. So today we're working with light tempeh. I've just diced it into bite-sized cubes. And a really good tip when cooking tempeh, since it's been fermented, it has a little bit of a bitter taste to it. So what you want to do before you start flavoring it is you want to steam it. Some people think you should boil it. I really don't like boiling though, because it's going to absorb a lot of the water and it's going to be hard for it to absorb any marinade later. So we're going to steam it for about 5 minutes, and then once it's done steaming, we're going to get started working on the marinade and the sauce for our sloppy joes. So to start our sloppy joe mixture, we're going to start by cooking our onions and celery so they can begin to caramelize and really set the base for a lot of nice sweet flavor. So I've turned my pan on to medium-high. It's right around a 7. I'm working in a Green Life pan today, which is a ceramic coated pan. It's awesome for non-stick, and you have to use minimal to no oil. That's why I love it. So my pan is nice and warm now. I'm going to go ahead and drizzle about 2 tablespoons of olive oil in there. And I'm going to just tilt the pan so the oil runs all the way around. So a really good tip, guys, how do you know when your oil is ready to work with? When you tilt the pan, the oil should run like water. Its viscosity thins out a little bit, and that means that it's ready to fry in. I'm gonna go ahead and grab a wooden spatula as well, and that's what I will be using today to execute. All right, my oil is ready. I'm gonna throw the carrots and the celery in, and we're just gonna let this caramelize for about 2 minutes. So I'm going to spread the celery and the carrots around so that it gets all that fat over it. So my tempeh is almost done steaming. Right now it's in a double boiler, so in this pan below there's just a little bit of water boiling, and then I have a strainer with a lid on top. So let's go ahead and check it out. I'm going to take the lid off. There it is. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and let this cool down for just a minute and crumble it up. We're gonna cook these just until they start to turn brown on the edges. Then we're gonna throw in our tempeh that we still need to crumble. And when we crumble, we're just gonna do that with our hands. You could do it with a fork if you wanted to, but I find it easiest to get the best consistency with my hands. You could also use a food processor, but I don't wanna dirty another dish. All right, while these finish cooking, I'm gonna go ahead and grab my tempeh so that we can start crumbling it up. I'm just pressing the cubes that I cut up in between my fingers until it mashes, and it kind of mashes into those little individual beans. The pan's on a medium-high heat. The carrots and celery have browned nicely. Let's go ahead and add in the tempeh now. And if you still have a few little pieces that are bigger than you'd like in here, you can use your wooden spatula or wooden spoon to break them up as we cook this down. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and salt with the celery salt. We're going to let this tempeh fry in the pan for about 5 minutes before we add any of our other spices or seasonings. So same thing with your tempeh. Once you throw it into the pan, you don't need to stir it constantly. We're going to let this set and stir it every 30 seconds or so. So the tempeh has started to develop some really nice color. It's starting to smell much more nutty and earthy. We're gonna go ahead and add in our bowl of spices. So again, in this bowl of spices, we have turmeric, cumin, coriander, smoked paprika, and red pepper flakes. The smoked paprika is really going to be where you get a lot of your kind of barbecue sauce flavor from. I'm going to throw in my chipotle peppers and the sauce. I'm just going to use my silicone or my wooden spatula to break up the chipotle peppers as they cook in here. And then another thing we're going to need to add, of course, is some liquid to the dish to kind of make it saucy, right? So all I'm going to use is actually water. I'm going to use it to my own discretion. I'm going to go ahead and grab another half cup of water to add to this. Now what you could also use instead of water that would work really well here would be canned tomato sauce or even diced tomatoes. Some tomato paste would work really well. We're on that quarantine ingredient list though, so I'm working with what I have. I'm going to go ahead and turn the heat down to a medium low, so like a 4 on a scale of 1 to 10. I'm going to add in just a 1/4 cup more of water. And at this point, I'm going to also add in the agave nectar. Yum, that is so good. It's got a lot of spice from these chipotle peppers. I'm going to work on breaking those up a little bit more. Now, if you wanted this to be deeper red, like traditional sloppy Joe, like barbecue Sammy's, you could add in more smoked paprika. What this is definitely missing for me is a little bit more salt, so I'm gonna put some more salt in there. And it was pretty spicy, so I'm gonna add just another splash of agave. So to go on our sandwiches, we're going to make a really delicious coleslaw using some red cabbage that I have left over in my fridge. So for this, I'm going to use about a 1/4 of that head of red cabbage. I have some Dijon mustard, and I have some mayonnaise and maple syrup. Usually when you make a coleslaw, you would want to use something like a vinegar. You can also use mustard, since mustard already has vinegar in it. I'm going to go ahead and just slice my cabbage up. So the vinegar in the mustard is going to begin to cook or break down some of the proteins in the cabbage so it's not so tough and rubbery. You can also do this just with salt. You could sprinkle your cabbage with some salt and then massage it with your hands, show it some love, and it would start to cook it and make it much more palatable, easier to eat. Now that we have nice little strips in here, I'm going to go ahead and start mixing in some of the mayonnaise and maple syrup. I'm not going to put it all in at first just because I don't want to get lost in the sauce. I'm going to throw in the mustard and give it a nice little stir here. It's looking really nice and colorful. Now I want this to be a little bit saucier than your typical coleslaw. And I want it to have a lot of flavor because it's going to be going in that sloppy Joe. Okay, so we have our toasted whole wheat buns. I'm going to go ahead and layer a little bit of the cabbage on first, actually. That'll ensure that it doesn't kind of go everywhere while you're eating this. It'll be packed in on bottom. You could make a coleslaw too with Brussels sprouts if you have Brussels in your fridge, or green cabbage. That works nicely. Next is our sloppy Joe mixture here. Alright, and then of course we just need to top it with the top bun. It's not a sloppy Joe if stuff's not falling out. Alright guys, I have my sloppy Joe assembled now. I'm really excited to eat it. Some other things that you might want to put on, you could definitely put on some pickles. We love pickles here. You could put on some tomatoes, more onions, whatever you'd like. Let's get to the business though. I'm going to go ahead and take this baby and try a bite and then let you know what I'm thinking. Really nice. I love the spice from those chipotle peppers, the sweetness from the maple syrup and the cabbage, and the agave nectar. It's really awesome. I love the whole wheat bun. This is just a really good meal, guys. So if you've never tried tempeh, this would be an awesome kind of intro recipe. Some other recipes don't really mask the bitter flavor as well as something like this. So I definitely encourage you to try my tempeh burger. All right, now get out of here. I'm gonna finish eating my sandwich. Bye, guys.